Hi, I'm Carolyn Lovewell, and you are listening to the Sleep Over podcast. This is another special episode where I am at the Mahasiddha Jamboree, the reunion for Sleepover Mystery School that we do every year. Yes, Lulu, that's cool. Mommy's doing a podcast. And I'm here with my friends Mackenzie and Grace and Anne and Laura, and I got Lulu and Mojo with me, so you might hear noises connected to that. And Mackenzie just made us the most glorious feast of a breakfast. This is the most amazing synchronicity. There's so many amazing synchronicities in life, but this one is really stunning me, which is we are. So, you've heard us talk here on the podcast before about Babylon and Mot, and of course Mot in Greek is Themis, who is Lady Justice in all the courthouses. And at this beautiful summer camp in West Virginia where we've gathered for our reunion, there is this wonderful cat who roams around, and her name is Justice.
No, it's he.
It's a he? Justice, the man cat, is hanging out with us here as we have gathered to talk about Mott this morning because Mackenzie was so sweet. She was asking me my thoughts about Mott, and Mackenzie has been doing beautiful invocation work with Mott. And I got thoughts. So
yeah,
do you want to pose the question again so it sounds less like a monologue?
When I talk about Mott, it's like I know, but it's like one of those languageless things, and I've heard you mention it really interestingly in multiple different ways, multiple different times. So I was like looking for like the like a rerun, like a little bit of a pep talk, a Mott pep talk.
A Mott pep talk. Yeah. Wait, one second, listeners. What is it, Lulu?
Potato.
Potato? Yes, I agree. Lulu speaks in Minion sometimes exclusively. She's translated all of Minions down to just potato. Okay, potato. Mommy is going to talk about potato on the potato, okay?
Potato.
Okay. So, when you asked me this question this morning, Mackenzie, what immediately came to me, so I think of Mott, right, as the balanced scales of justice, and the scales, like we know that image of, the Egyptian story of when you die, your soul gets weighed your heart gets weighed on the scales of Mott, and if your heart is heavy, a crocodile comes and eats it, and you don't go on to the afterlife. That's it for you. And if your heart is lighter than a feather, then you go on into some region of the Egyptian afterlife. And that just seems to me like the truest thing. Like, that is 1,000% true. That's how it works. What, Lulu?
How do you spell
Lulu's writing, she's drawing me a beautiful picture, and she's writing "love you" under it. Grace is going to help her. But anyways, that image of equilibrium, and that image of so it's equilibrium and it's lightness. So there's this two concepts there. So total balance and total like inner heart freedom. And what that speaks to me of is the reconciliation of opposites in love. So so there's another level, there is multiple levels. So there's one level where like Babylon is an image that really helps me access that image, right? That energy of like this total, complete, slutty, utter embrace of everything, refusing nothing, totally giving the gift of grace and redemption to all unconditionally, with no repentance required, just pure unconditional giving. Sweetie, if you want to do that, might you go in the other room with Grace? Because Mommy and Mackenzie are going to talk. Okay, thank you so much. You're so amazing, Lulu. Thank you. So, this image of Mott, right. So what was I saying there? Okay, so, and we also have this notion, which Nema so beautifully gave us in the Mott Magic book, this understanding that Mott is this current incoming from the future of, like, basically humanity's optimal future, like the version where humanity does the thing that we're meant to do, which is blossom into a larger consciousness. So one of the ways that Mott makes sense to me is the only way that blossoming happens for humanity, as far as I can tell, is as we come into integration of large, so it's impossible, so what I like to use this phrase, right, making the unconscious conscious. It is impossible to completely make the unconscious conscious because the unconscious is the mystery, it's the unknown. You cannot get rid of the mystery. But what you can do is make a large amount of what has previously been unconscious can become conscious, and an amount which includes, dimensions of humanity's wholeness that has been heavily feared and heavily disowned and all of that. So to me, Mott is the image of the infinite, the knowledge of infinite innocence, the infinite lightness of heart that comes from this total realization, this total acceptance of wholeness, and that which is also really connected a lot to what you and I talk about a good deal, Mackenzie, is this idea of like having no autonomous will, not being the authors of our own existence, being, little finger puppets of the gods. I find that angle of emphasis so important because that angle of emphasis really, really helps, I believe, in getting to that ability to make conscious things that were previously kept unconscious.
It's like we can't have it if it's us, because like we would die if we accepted the reality of that being us. But if we can sink into the like state of like awareness that has us as just finger puppets and complete powerlessness, you're still gonna have to experience responsibility and consequences as they like come up in like regular life stuff, but like the general philosophical, ideological like feeling of like a gnosis of powerlessness that allows you not to like die when something's happening. Like your ego doesn't like die. Like you don't have to protect the self when it's like you're just a like whimsy part in the scheme of all of that.
You get it, exactly. You can have a light heart about even very dark things in your experience or your past or your actions or present, whatever. And so like that, so to me, the balanced scales of Mott are an image of like deep integration, deep realization of innocence that is holding everything and holding it with a lightness and a love and a humor. It's like the realization of the divine comedy, which is quite an advanced level of comedy because some things are very, very dark, and how will we ever laugh about them? Well, we can only ever really laugh at them after having deeply realized, having a full gnosis of utter redemption, the utter omega point of like Teilhard, can never pronounce dude's name, Teilhard du Chardin, the guy who wrote about the omega point. Like when we gain that gnosis, which in my experience is primarily gained through theurgy, through magic, through weird time loops, which are also a Mottian specialty, then it's like I find it possible that I can open up to the comedy. I can I don't have to be completely resigned to nothing but grief or shame forever, because I can feel this, the way that it all comes together in such glorious beauty. And that, so to me, that gnosis is a big part of what Mott represents. That, this like peace beyond understanding, and this, and the way that when we, and this is something that I think is very important and that is very little understood. It's very little understood because it's a highly esoteric topic in general. There's not that many people who care about who Babylon is and who Mott is. Yeah. And there's even less people who fully understand the way in which, like, they're the same, the mother and the daughter version.
Yeah, that's part I'm curious about.
But to talk about that, so, like, going to the Tetragrammaton, the Yod He Vav He, like, to me it's very clear that Babylon is like the He primal. She's the He in the first He in the Yod He Val He. And Mot, or Thamus, or Lady Justice, is the He final, the princess or the daughter in the Tetragrammaton.
Oh, okay.
And that, so a lot of times when people hear about this Babylon energy, or when, I don't know, when I'm trying to describe it or communicate it, I think sometimes there's a little bit of fear of like, oh, well, this is unbalanced feminine energy, or, oh, this is like, you can't have all of this slutty love without boundaries and without no energy.
It's almost like the slightly Saturnine-esque, like, down, or not really, eternal truth, the shape of it.
I think that Mott is the paradoxical, complete balance, perfect boundaries, perfect, just like exquisite expression of the utter insane slutty embrace of Babylon. Like when that complete holy virgin whore mother is active in our hearts and in our attitudes, it doesn't tend to manifest in like walking the streets trying to smoke crack and suck dick. Like that's not how that manifests in human life. Like if you have that slutty embrace in your heart, what that manifests as is like, wow, I feel so good. I'm gonna get up and do 100 burpees. I'm gonna, I'm gonna see what I can contribute to my community. I'm gonna, take care of the things that I need to take care of, because there's, in that lightness of heart, it's actually pretty easy to take care of one's responsibilities, and it feels good to contribute to things, and it's so, it's like in the Tao Te Ching where there's these lines about like when they make laws against, when they decide what the good is, they create the evil. So to me, like Mott is like the spontaneous wholesomeness that arises without there having to be rules about it, without like any like shame or inner dictates of like, I should be this way, I shouldn't be that way. Like those inner dictates dissolve in the Holy Grail of Babylon, and then what seems to spontaneously emerge is this Mottian wholesomeness. And like one of the ways that I experienced that, I like to think about, Layla's life. Like Layla was. She was not having a good time, not in maximum wholesomeness in her life. She was like really stressed in a lot of ways, and this is a very stressful time in history. And she found the Babylon current, through existential kink. And now her life today is like a very kind of classic picture of wholesomeness, of like hanging out with like husband and baby and doing like family, community work. But that's not coming from any inner rule of like some outer authority,
like some taught principle or virtue that like I must sacrifice self to like have this thing, because that's what gets me into the inner club of
acceptable people. Instead, it's coming from her own spontaneous inner desire. Like that's how she's spontaneously
what's
organized.
occurring to me is that I do have this feeling that I go back to a lot when you describe sort of like the rocket fuel of kind of any work you're doing as like part of your Bodhisattva vow, which I'm not like an expert on what that exactly is, but I know what it is in this context where it's like, oh, well, that's just Bodhisattva. Like that's what I'll be like, oh, well, that's like the reason to like do anything. And I did read in the Mott Magic book last night. It was like, so as a magician, can you grab that Mott Magic book for me, Ans? It's like, as a magician, like why do anything? And it was like, well, suffering is not a virtue. Yeah. And I was just thinking about Bodhisattva and that, where it's like, why do any of this? Why like fight? Why battle magic? Why like anything socially active? Why like promote? Why anything? And it's like, it seems like, and then I'd be like, oh, well, Carolyn is a Bodhisattva. You know what I mean? It's like just this like deep like stomach. I feel like my stomach sense of being like it's service, like maybe like the abstract service, like the deep meaning of like service and deep like necessity of service is what I see Bodhisattva as. And now I'm really seeing that like lighthearted balance and like just a sort of like fountain outpouring of like a lighthearted consciousness as like this Bodhisattva. I can see how they kind of blink.
Oh yes, and I love that you mentioned that, the Bodhisattva thing, and I love that another classic representation of Mott, like in the Thoth tarot deck, the dancing scales of justice, she's a harlequin. She's like the female version of the fool. She's like the, and part of how that makes sense to me is, oh, baby just spilled almond milk all over himself. Was that fun, baby? Was that fun? Part of how that makes sense is, where was it? Oh, okay, so I'm a bodhisattva. And what's fun about that, many things are fun about that. One of the things that's really fun about that is every time I think about how cool I am for being a bodhisattva, I also think about how, what makes it possible for me to be a bodhisattva is that there are horrible serial killers in the world and like crazy warlords and abusers and all of this like really billionaires who like to venture into human trafficking. There's just like all these sorts of things. Would anybody be willing to take the baby into the other room with Lulu for a while? Thank you so much, Laura. He's getting a little tired, I can tell. He needs his morning nap in a minute. I need to... Oh, no, that will not be permitted. Okay. Well, so maybe I'll just wrap this up right now because baby's getting fussilated. But I guess I feel a Mattian humility in the way that this really cool thing that I get to be and do, which is like this sort of...
Also, how bad were you before? In order to land the balance, the unique balance of... Not even, I don't mean in this life. But,
Well, exactly. I mean... So
it reminds me of like rock bottom being like arrow shooting back up to like Kether, where it's like maybe being super awful in a past life would give you like this humiliated or at least humble balance opportunity to be Bodhisattva now. Or if I'm like, no matter how far down the scale you've gone, that's like the extent that you'd be able to serve others is like...
Absolutely. Oh, Mr. Cranky Pants needs a nap.
You're tied up.
Cranky Pants. So I guess, so I would say if I'm in a really Mattian mood, I'm really feeling like the complete equality of like me, the sexy, wholesome bodhisattva lady, and the most depraved, serial killer, evil doer, criminal, human trafficker, because they're making my job possible. There's no way that I get to... And my beautiful cherubic children, they also don't exist outside the whole matrix of horror that our manifest universe includes. So, like, I'm indebted to all of the horror in the universe for them. And this is maybe a side note, but I think it's connected. So another thing that I think about with Mott, obviously I think about the Tao in general, because I think she's like an Egyptian expression of the Tao. Who I think about Jesus and the Tao. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And, the Tao is the way. And when I think about Jesus these days, and like I'm at my little Pentecostal church, whatever those yums are, he has teeth. He can eat those. Okay. If you want to keep the chocolate and yum yums coming. Oh, cool. I think we can continue because Mackenzie found chocolate chips, and I think the energy. Okay, the Jesus, right. When I'm in my little Pentecostal church on Sunday mornings and they're singing about, Jesus, you redeemed us, it was only by your blood that we could be made whole and all of this stuff. To me, I do sometimes like to... Anyways, one of the ways that hits me meaningfully in terms of like this Jungian psychological realization of the self with a capital S is that all of innocence, every innocent being, in a way, willingly sacrifices itself. Like in my church, they sing about Jesus as the willing sacrifice. Every innocent being who has ever been hurt in the grand scheme of samsara, including my own sweet little child self and everybody's, there's a way in which that has always been a willing sacrifice in order for the play of duality to exist at all. Innocence has to be able to be hurt and to be in danger and to be...
It's kind of like the skin of like, if you're thinking scientifically of like a bioorganism, there's like something on the outside, like a barrier or skin or something that like would be hurt before like your stomach was or your heart was. You know what I mean? Like physical, like damaged. And it's like there's like virtue in being the skin or virtue in being like the membrane that needs to be like penetrated before like, and not that it's more or less important, it's just like symbiotic in that way.
Indeed. And it's and I feel like what happened when Christianity became a widespread phenomenon, like what that represented in humanity was this, you know, mythical symbolic realization of like doing honor to the injured innocent, like doing honor to the sacrifice of the slaves and the sick people and the weak people, because previously the images of God had only been, you know, or not only, I mean, how do I say, there'd been many images of God, but a common image of God was as this like, you know, powerful, conquering sky daddy being. And not so much, you know, the image of this like tortured, dead human who was also simultaneously God was this very paradoxical, offensive idea.
Okay.
And, but it was an idea that I think brought up into the consciousness of humanity that like we can honor the innocent part of us that gets hurt and gets sacrificed in this whole game. We can really love and really adore that part of us. And that is what...
Give such honor to that part rather than like the victimized, like ego damaged, like this part that's so innocent and vulnerable and got hurt can't exist because like it makes me less worthy. It's like give so much honor and virtue to like the part that is like came here to be willing to be like vulnerable.
Precisely. And like my Pentecostal preacher will be like, you're worthy, Jesus, you're so worthy. And it's like, what are they talking to? They're talking to the injured, sacrificed, innocent part of us and affirming the worth of that part. And when I look at it that way, I fucking love church because I love to have that part of me loved and affirmed and like, you know, and that does really help me not be so hard on myself. And so I think like that is also, I guess, part of the gnosis of Mott is that balancing, that appreciation of the great balance, appreciation of like, you know, because when we see injured, tortured innocence, obviously that's heartbreaking. Obviously it's like, oh my God, this world. How could we enjoy this world where this happens?
Yeah, that comes up a lot where I'm like, how do I enjoy, like, I feel like my young adulthood has been like, just like, I mean, not that it's any different than any other generations and shit, but it's like a lot of like, I think, things are sort of, anyways, I don't know, quickly changing and confusing, but also very painful. It's like, how do I do anything? How do I enjoy anything? How do I exist like this? Like the messaging I got as a young person that couldn't distinguish between like, didn't have like the deeper understanding to distinguish between what is like sort of flash in the pan programming rhetoric and like zeitgeisty talk and like kind of a deeper eternal truth, was just like bombarded with like how can I possibly be? And also I had no access to humility because all I was taught was humiliation or grandeur, you know, like not like, at least that's all I picked up on. Maybe that's alcoholic in me. I kind of knew there was more, but I think that it's everything's so extreme. We have extremity instead of intimacy, and like depth in a lot of ways as like generally quote unquote addicted culture that I perceive. And but why was I saying that? Because the Mott and the realization of innocence and the balancing. Yeah. I guess what I was trying to point to is I totally feel the same way. Not being able to, not like feeling like it's okay to enjoy.
Yeah. Feeling like how could I enjoy this world where innocence is injured so much? I feel like part of the message of Christ and Babylon and Mott is like, it really is okay to have a light heart. Yeah. It really is okay to enjoy and laugh and feel all the pleasures of this world. Because at a deep level, the innocence is innocence in all of us, everywhere, is sacrificing itself willingly so that the manifest world can exist. So that creation can be present. And it's a loving gift given with like, and it's a gift that when we realize it, of course, this like in my soul, this like reverence blossoms, and it's and it's reverence for my injured child self, and it's reverence for everyone, and reverence for all of the people who have suffered. So it's like that's so I guess I'm just trying to communicate, like, part of my understanding of Mott is this reverential, deep honoring of all of the suffering that has occurred, simultaneous with an infinite laughter, infinite lightness, infinite, orgasmic enjoyment.
I feel like that context of reverence and is like so special and so like quick for me to like get right now, because I have like idea of immortality, and it's just like kind of dawning on me like what materialist science strips from the like regular, I mean so much, but like the fact that like we don't like, it's not mainstream to like have a like deep felt sense of like quote unquote immortality or reincarnation, or just like coming incarnate and not being incarnate, this sort of like abstract memory of like not being incarnate, you know what I mean? It's like, and having that not be woo, like, because for me it's like no, it's like the least woo thing ever. It's just like so natural, but like materialist, like that sort of very secular happenstance does not include that. And it's like as soon as I got that deeply, and it happened over a bunch of synchronicities over the course of like 10 years, and like landing in like kind of full on community school sort of vibes and psalms, then a lot of this stuff would like the gnosis of Mott and of like the balance, or of like being able to enjoy myself in my day-to-day, and not just enjoy myself but have that light-hearted like experience and joy.
I think you're really getting it. Mackenzie, because the thing is exactly what you're talking about. Like, you can see the interrelationship of this lighthearted energy and the fact of immortality, and that's exactly why, to have an immortal experience, one has to be able to have a heart as light as a feather, because otherwise you're not getting it. Otherwise you're not receptive to the immortal experience. It's not that it's just the evil crocodile that's eating you. It's like you're not able to perceive your immortal self.
Interesting.
So when your heart becomes light as a feather...
I feel like I was given the cookie, or like the muffin mold, but I haven't made muffins yet. I have the immortality muffin mold, but like I'm still like stirring up, this metaphor is hilarious, I'm still stirring up a batter of I'm going to die and what should I get done before I die. And that's like, I think where linear time becomes so like significant in LTAA and whatever, because it's like the linear time part where it's like I still am like stirring a muffin batter that has to do with like I'm going to die, what can I do before I die, how do I'm just repeating myself now. You know what I mean? I thought maybe something fresh would come out there. It's the exact same thing.
It takes a while to integrate all this far out stuff. I mean, these are only the most esoteric secrets of all time. That's all, Mackenzie. You should have figured them out by now already, but...
Yeah, I'm gonna go home and study more. Sorry, Professor Carolyn.
You're so funny. The
cat was eating those eggs.
That's fine.
Okay.
I guess life will continue. Hey, baby, how about some oatmeal? So that's the, when we can have hearts as light as a feather, thanks to integrating this, like, Babylon, Christ, Tao,
or
Mott.
making as much conscious as possible. I really appreciate that sentiment, too, because I feel like the farther down I dig to just, like, pull stuff out of unconsciousness and into consciousness, it's, like, the more clarity and experience I have, and more sanity and experience I have, and it's not, like, it's never perfect. And I think I heard you say it's like there'll always be like something that's sort of like unconscious.
Yeah, there has to be
but
something.
You just like get a nice big wealthy truckload of unconscious stuff made conscious, and then you're cruising.
Yeah, exactly. You get mana power. That's what Carl Jung said, is you become a person of mana. You become a person who just has strange magical powers. Because you're accessing you're accessing Runa, you're accessing the mystery. And, so it's like that free energy. Like, when when humans are going to do this, we're going to figure out how to tap into, right, the void matrix equilibrium and access all the jitterbugging Buckminster Fuller energy out there, and we're going to draw it right down without having to use fossil fuels or windmills or anything. It's like we won't be getting all the energy out because that's impossible. But it is free energy, and we will be accessing it once we have opened ourselves enough.
So that tipping of the scales is what I sense. So, I know what I love to ask you about. When we say Aeon of Ma'at, so I know last time we spoke and recorded, you asked me, when I say the new Aeon, what am I saying? And my answer basically was some sense I have of consciousness evolution. But I know there's like so much more and so many contexts, and there's like what seems to me to be like the new Aeon and Nema, and then like a new Aeon, or like a consecutive Aeon of Ma'at. And I would love to hear like a cliff notes on like your Aeon of Ma'at thing, because I feel like I don't want to keep like referring to it wrong.
Yeah, no, I mean, in some ways I feel like, when Crowley was talking about the Aeon of the Child, which he called the Aeon of Horus, and was saying, like, it's the Aeon of the crowned and conquering child. In some ways, I feel like that is precisely the same thing as the Aeon of Ma'at, in that they're both pointing to a time of synthesis, a time of, like, union of the conscious and the unconscious, where it's, because for the past age, I guess we could say, like, the thing that really sticks out to me about the past 2,000 years, is that in the West, especially, there's been this trajectory, this Faustian trajectory. Like Otto Spengler wrote this book. I think I'm getting that right. Is that Spengler? Anyways, he wrote a book. Some dude, pretty sure it was Spengler. Oswald Spengler wrote a book called The Decline of the West. And he talked about these different types of civilization, and Faustian civilization emerged in Europe and has been,
400.
Yeah, emerged, I think he said, around the 11th century, and just started building from there. And Faustian culture, is about selling your soul to the devil, giving away any sense of the sacred in exchange for secular power. And wow, we have done that so hard.
Yeah.
And we have this, like, complete control of nature. And in a way that's, like, right, this, like, really hyper-masculine, like, unbalanced masculine expression of this thing. And so everybody can see that that's this, but in some ways I think it must have been necessary somehow, just like when a child realizes their independence from their mother and has to be like, fuck you, mom, I do what I want, I go out with my friends, I don't know, whatever kids do. And so now, so that the interconnection and the embodiment and the relatedness of feminine reality, and what we associate feminine with the moon and the unconscious and the night and the dreams and all of this, has been so dishonored, so insulted. And now there is a general, in spiritual circles, certainly, lots of folks want to honor the feminine and bring up, goddess related stuff. And so I feel like the Aeon of Ma'at, in a way, is reaching, how do I say this, is the same thing as the Aeon of Horus, except the Aeon of Ma'at is putting the emphasis on the action that balances, the actual action of balancing, rather than sort of the fruit of the balance. So the fruit of the balance is the crowned and conquering child, which is Horus and is baby Jesus and baby Krishna and whatever image of, like, synthesized wholeness that we might have. And anyways, I just feel like they are sort of like the same thing seen from different angles. Maybe the Aeon of Horus is seen from the present or retrospectively, and the Aeon of Ma'at, I do really love this image of the Aeon of Ma'at as like the current that's coming in. And in some ways it's the same, I think it's the same continuous current. Like, I don't think, Crowley liked to talk about the formulas of initiation changing. I don't really think that they change so much as when you get initiated, you start to have different perspectives on the formulas of initiation that brought you to what you have. So Crowley would say things like, the Night of Pan, the NOx formula of, like, total ego death, that's better than the LVX, the realization of the infinite light. But it's like, is it better, dude? Or is it just like you see something because you had the access to the LVX, you realized that, and then that opened up another door for you.
Yeah.
I think that's more what it's like. I think, and so it's, I do think it is true that, and Crowley was definitely onto this, which is, and so was Carl Jung, which is that symbols over time lose their galvanizing, constellating power and need to be refreshed. We need fresh symbols in order to be able to...
Well, I see that a lot in, like, maybe not with literal symbols or literal, like symbols the way I think you're talking about it, like symbol sets. But I see just the value of a very concise and potent and powerful translation of, like, some of the same energies that are always around, or that are ancient, or that are ebbing and flowing, or that are, like, present in lesser or grander relevance in certain cultures. You know, it's, like, changing a lot, but having voices that are saying it clearly and concisely. But then I think I'm also, and I see that's, like, the power of your work, where it's, like, it's nothing super new to, like, make the unconscious conscious. Well, I mean, it is still kind of new. Jung's pretty young, if you will. But, like, I don't know. This tangent was mostly to say that, like, the symbol set would be super useful, and I see also the way that, like, a bunch of individual expert voices trying their damnedest to make, like, these gnosis relevant is, like, seems very fruitful to me. Like, all the sort of, like, independent entrepreneurs trying to do their own thing, fragmenting off. Like, I really have a lot of reverence for that motion of the ocean right now culturally, and away from, like, the tribal village thinking. Like, that's okay too, but it's like the evolution towards, like, what seemed like hyper-individualism and is now seeming like just this, like, beautiful fragmenting every man and woman is a star sort of situation, and, like, trying your damnedest just to, like, shout out what you are putting together as most powerfully and concisely and potently as possible. And I see you've done that. Like, I really, like, you're a great model for how to do that courageously. But, like, if everyone keeps doing that, there might be, like, a whole bunch of symbol sets that overlap a bunch. But then also I think what you're getting at something a little bit different, which is just, like, a really cool, extremely potent and porous symbol set, or, like, a thelemic as, like, as, like,
post-Christian and, like, tantric Christian. Go ahead, you can go ahead and say it. There's no way that I'm going to avoid talking about it. Yeah, I've been talking to Mackenzie about the, like, the writing project that I'm on, which has a lot to do with, like, understanding Nema as a form of Christianity, like, in similar way that, like, Vajrayana Buddhism relates to Theravada Buddhism. It's like, you know, it's freaky and it's different than what the words of, you know, there's a interplay. But yeah, I feel like there's definitely various symbol sets that people are going to use. Lots of people, I mean, it's curious to me because I see, you know, like, I think
there's similar symbol sets though.
They're pretty freaking similar if they're really working.
These are the same points of consciousness coming online. Like, we're trying to communicate the same abstract thing, so the symbols end up looking very similar, or the, like, the forms that come out of it end up, like, for instance, in, like, therapeutic world, parts work, like, maps really well over, like, family work. Like, I'm not an expert, but you know what I mean? It's like these things map over each other. All the, like, new modes, like, had the same shapes. But, like, that's not exactly what you mean by symbols either.
Well, yeah, what I mean is, like, sort of like the kind of symbols of the sacred, or, like, religious symbols that people are trying to use to activate themselves. And I mean, something interesting that I see is there have been, certainly, you know, I was talking about our depraved Faustian culture, where, like, people of European heritage have been so secularized, and then, like, they start freaking out and seeking some sense of spirit or meaning in the world, and they often end up, I mean, I've seen various things happen, but, like, going into neo-pagan revivals of Germanic or Celtic things, or going into, getting really into other people's indigenous stuff, like Lakota stuff, or, you know, Shipibo, ayahuasca stuff. And obviously there's potent symbols in all of those traditions. And what I find, and I don't think, so for example, like artwork that just shows like a beautiful Earth Mother. Obviously that's lovely. Obviously that's true. Yes, the Earth is a beautiful mother. And I don't think that that symbol has the kind of electrifying, constellating power on the psyche that is needed right now to help us make the leap through into the next stage of consciousness. And I think that a lot of people are finding that. A lot of people my age, I'm an elder millennial, so I think a lot of people my age who experienced that spiritual bankruptcy and went looking, can I find it in this image of Freya? Can I find it in this image of Pachamama? Can I find it in, it's like, it's so gorgeous. And clearly it's this very important layer that's been very insulted and denied by Faustian culture, but that's like, it's not quite the fresh thing that is like what Carl Jung said when he said like there's a new transcendental symbol that's needed to revivify the old symbols and bring into constellation the archetype of the self. And for me, I have specific ideas about like what is constellating and electrifying and galvanizing. And basically, everybody, I might as well just say, it's Babylon with the beast, understood in this tantric Christian context, which Western civilization has been so saturated with the Judeo-Christian stuff for thousands of years. And obviously there's other important layers built in, the Greek and the all sorts of things. But I think that there's no way out but through. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is like people who are like, oh, I don't need Hermeticism. I don't need the heritage of Western esotericism. I don't need to give a fuck about the Bible. I don't need to give a fuck about,
which was a total like memo of, I think, Gen X and Elder Millennial, as far as I can tell. Like that was like the vibe.
Yeah, that was the vibe. It's like, we can just ignore this. This was complete shit that took us to this entire desecration.
And in the meantime, like, the, like, sparkliness of you as I've watched you comb, like, the Lamech text and Crowley and the biblical texts, and then, like, find, like... Also, I think that, like, there's something... Your English writing, reading mind is, like, such a gift to... everyone that gets to consume the stuff you come up with through it, but I can just see the magic in these things that have to like be seen all the way out into a new symbol. You know what it weirdly reminds me of is like this is not a fully formed metaphor or thought, but it's like right now we're kind of seeing the first big Gen Z pop star. And
who's the first Gen Z pop star?
I don't know if it's like first. People probably get really mad at me if they hear me say that. But like, in my experience, it seems like the first big Gen Z pop star is Chappell Roan.
Who is this person?
Oh my gosh. Carolyn, you'd fucking love Chappell Roan. Like, I am not like a huge pop...
Chappell Roan.
I might be saying it wrong too. I'll be crucified on the cross of Chappell Roan by her followers for messing this up, but I am kind of like... curly, red-haired, beautiful voice, very great lyrics, has, like, a very Gen Z, like, and also is not very programmed by, like, the music industry and, like, won't take sponsors and, like, is just, like, says stuff she's not supposed to say, is, like, PR, like, has, like, kind of crazy Lady Gaga outfits sometimes, but then also is, like, very salt of the earth other times, like, interesting individual. Like, sparkly star of an individual is a star, and I guess the metaphor I was going to try to make was something along the lines of, like, new symbol sets, where it's, like, maybe me from the outside looking in as not, like, a pop devotee, I can look at Chappell Roan and have a greater appreciation for Cher. Or, like, I can see, I'm starting, because of Chappell Roan, I've gotten more interested in the lineage of pop and what it's meant culturally, you know what I mean? So that's just, like, one kind of, like,
oh my god, we could do a whole other podcast on that. I could go on. A metaphor
in culture.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, speaking of which, they killed rock and roll in Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yeah.
And because the more taboo thing is trying to I'm not even gonna go there, but it's like a whole that movie like sent me on a new trip every time I watch it.
We were watching Rocky Horror Picture Show last night, and yeah, I never realized that there's like the word Mott appears on the Rocky Horror Picture Show screen.
There's a lot.
And the Mona Lisa appears. Rocky Horror Picture Show is a deep thalamic Mottian time travel text.
And then all the future downloads we got this weekend. I realized that when you talked about the Aeon of Ma as like a current, you really feel it as a current or a channel, and that like Ma is like a goddess in the Egyptian tradition, but it really doesn't seem to me to be close to personification in my psyche at all. Sometimes I don't know, that could change, or I could like regret saying that, but
I mean, she might show herself to you, and when she shows up,
I'll give you a call and be like, never mind.
Yeah, I mean, I know, because I know exactly what you mean, because, like, I've often been like, oh, this archetype is kind of abstract, and then, like, I have, like, a theophanic experience, and I'm like, oh, you're very concrete.
Wow.
But, yeah.
Wow.
But it's, but yeah, a current, and to me, the current of Mott is Thelema, and Thelema is agape, which is, Jesus, and it is, like, this... it is the 93 current.
Yeah.
And the Mottian side of it is like the part that's coming backwards from the Omega point to wherever we are now. And
Beautiful is coming to me.
It's go ahead, tell us.
It's just kind of like, as you say it like that, and it's like, I have crossed paths with so many people in the last year plus, and it's just like, I can now have like this awareness of like, holy cow, I can sense this abstract current in this individual, and then I just keep finding more and more people that I can sense it in, and it just seems like, I don't know, like the little voice in the back of my head wants to be like, if you feel a little bit of a like knowingness in current, like go, like keep going with it, like with grace, and I don't know, like I would had inspired to like encourage people with the Martian current, but it's because I see it, the 93 current, I am just seeing it a lot.
Yes.
I'm sure you are.
Yes.
But like it's sorry.
Yeah. It's coming in. And it is super beautiful, because that deep balancing, that deep integration. So like we are giving, like, humanity exists to give birth to a new realization of God. And, we are consciously creating the anthropos, the Adam Kadmon, the Anaton, and realizing ourselves as cells in a greater organism. And it's kind of fun because, like, sometimes when I say that, I'm like, that sounds boring. Like, that's how
the bees are described in here.
Yeah. But it's very thrilling, and it's very delightful, and it's very much an experience of being in love. Like, that's what I'm realizing about it, is like, it is, it could seem scary, or it could seem like, oh, I'm losing my individuality, or it could seem like I'm fucking in love, and I'm part of this larger thing that's moving, that is humanity, that we are becoming more capable of reflecting God back to God's self and performing this Aquarian reflective function of consciousness. And it's like, that is coming online. You are seeing that in people. That is like the emergent consciousness. That's what Ken Wilber called integral consciousness.
Okay, yes.
And Ken Wilber said that it was like 5% of the population a few years ago. I think he said that is at integral consciousness, and we need to get to 10% of the population being there before it like sweeps the world in a fresh renaissance, basically. So that's what I'm interested. That's my.
Oh yeah, when you started talking about that was when like I was like, and I think you talked about that in relationship to Mott like a while ago, and just like 2 like consecutive videos. It was like maybe probably 2 years ago now. And when I watched that, I was like, it just clicked in so deeply, quickly. I was like, this is the feeling I've been having, or like, I don't know. I was like, that's it. I don't.
Yes.
That's why it's exciting to be like, if you're feeling those points of consciousness, or that integral consciousness, like shaking, about to come on, or almost on, or you experience it like wholeheartedly one day and then it shuts back off. It's like, that is like, and this all inspired me with when you talk about the Ma is the Nema is the new symbol set, is that like, it's like literally our work incarnate right now, if you're feeling that glimmery, shaky point of consciousness coming on, is to like keep like carving out ways for it to come on. It's like uncharted territory. This is the wild west. The like uptick like in the zeitgeist culturally of spiritual stuff is like no like coincidence. It's because like the points of consciousness are coming online and people are seeking out any avenues that are somewhat close to like what they feel like is like starting to occur to them. Does that track for you?
That absolutely tracks.
I know you've heard you say stuff
and
like
that's
that.
why I'm so excited for your career in mystery, Mackenzie. Because you're feeling it, and like I love what you were saying about like bringing in places for it to manifest. So like, you know, the ritual that you did last night, and like this is the forms of the gods and the things associated with them become so important as giving them doorways into Malkuth, giving them doorways into manifestation at this level of reality. So, you know, that's for thousands of years, people in mystery temples, they weren't just like, oh, we're doing this for shits and giggles. I mean, that too, but they were also doing this because it's like, we are bringing the presence of the god here.
It's like I have to show up for work today.
Yeah.
Bring the presence of the god here. I'm still going.
Yeah, and so that's what, you know, like I could really see you bringing, you know, continuing to invoke, continuing to make inroads in yourself, in your psyche, and your, you know, surroundings, and your altar, and your life, that make room for Mott. And then and just like the lightning that we talked about, like the lightning is looking for a lightning rod, right? Like there is, the electricity is up there, and it's like, where do I go? Where do I go? Where do I go?
Wow.
Oh, I go down here. There's my altar that grounds me, you know?
Wow.
So I think that that's exactly what's happening, is like folks who are integrated enough, awake enough, that we have the the purposefacity to be like, I will do this weird magical thing.
Yeah.
That's what the gods are asking us for, and it's really fun. I highly recommend to anybody being in a theophanic relationship with a freaky god force.
Makes sense that, like, old, like, other structures or like languages or like expertises or like standards don't quite work. Like if I keep dipping into like all these like pockets of, I can't like copy and paste anything that's like existing into this. I can, well, maybe I can a little bit. I'm like, I can hold on to this much amount of power. Anyways, I think I lost my train of thought there, but basically I was just pondering the Wild Westness of opening roads for that to come in, and how like I can't like forcefully fit the square shape of the forms I already know into the round hole of like what that point of consciousness is going to be. It's like I like kind of, if we're trying to picture a far-fetched future with all kinds of new quote-unquote technology and points of consciousness that we've never experienced before, we can't use the stories of like the last 400 years and the shapes of the last 400 years to describe that future experience. Like it would just that's kind of what is dawning on me a little bit.
Yes, exactly. Well, with that beautiful...
Like, I can't learn journalism and publishing and tech and poetry, and I can't, like, become an expert in any of that and expect it to, like, work perfectly with, like, carving out, like, a new frontier.
Mm-hmm. I hear you. There's everything's... I really do think that the best avenue these days is to really connect with a god and really hold on and let that divine energy, you know, guide one, because it's really like whatever inherited orders of the day are freaking out the window. They are very far out the window. And yeah, here we are. Well, this has been a lovely conversation, Mackenzie. I'm realizing that I could literally keep talking all day about this, and I guess we're supposed to pack up our stuff.
What?
I know.
Oh no.
I know. Well, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Sleepover Podcast. And please like, subscribe, tell your friends. Sleepover Mystery School will be on a hiatus for 2025, but we will be starting up again in 2026. And in the meantime, the Immortal College is doing more fun online stuff right now. Until September 29th, 2024, you can sign up for the Red Work, which is the super cool, deep program about online business as an alchemical integrative practice that we are teaching, that we live out, and we're showing other people how to do it. So come sign up for the Red Work if you want more Immortal College vibes, and stay tuned. You can join our email list at immortalcollege.com, and you'll find out about more of our courses and events. All right, bye-bye.